The next session is a critical session, not only for all of us as Canadians, but especially all of us who are in the field of energy and who are looking to build new projects, who are looking to create new business models. I'm really keen to hear about economic reconciliation and paths to equity and unity. The next speakers are Chana Martineau. She is a member of Frog Lake First Nations and the CEO of Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation. And she's going to have a fireside chat with John Stackhouse, the Senior VP of the Office of the CEO from Royal Bank of Canada. Please welcome them to the stage.
Thank you. All right, thanks everyone for sharing part of your afternoon with us. Chana, it's great to be with you.
It's nice to see you again too, John. John and I connect at various places all over the world at some of these leadership conferences and inspiring. So it's always nice when we get a chance to visit.
Absolutely, and in your town of Calgary. Now, we've got a bunch of questions that we're going to get to, but Bo was just so inspiring there. We were both over kind of in the waiting lounge thinking, oh my God, that's really inspiring and motivating. And I wanted to kick off just asking, what did you take from that presentation?
First of all, I want to say I'm always happy when the mics work when we come up. Thank you to the team. And Bo, I just want to say, you are outstanding. Like, I just want to bottle you and take you with me. And can I just put you up and just like talk, you know, and get a hologram? I followed Bo just while he was talking. I thought he was so outstanding. But, you know, really, a couple of the things, you know, just a really good reminder that when you heal yourself, you're healing the world around you. I think that is such a powerful element. I know as leaders, you tend to struggle with work-life balance. At least I have over many parts of my life, still do. And it just is a reminder that when you're healthy, that those around you are healthier, and that there is no beginning and no end between our world and ourselves. And so, you know, as you come up here and you're kind of nervous on stage, John, you think about that. And I just want to thank Bo for all of his wisdom today.
Yeah, I loved his reference to stories and storytelling. And wonder if we can kick off with the story of AIOC. So for those of you who don't know, Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation is a real breakthrough organization in the country, has set a model that other provinces and now the federal government are copying in different ways. But it's really showing the power of mobilizing capital through Indigenous communities for Indigenous opportunities. But I wonder if you can tell us the story.
Sure. You know, I'll try not to eat up your whole day, but we started with a vision, and in 2019, the Alberta government, which was then led by Jason Kenney, fulfilled a campaign promise to bring to life an organization that would provide access to capital for Indigenous communities who had previously been held back. First Nations cannot access capital in the same way. They cannot hold collateral in the same way due to restrictions in the Indian Act. And so when you think about how most people and most businesses, you know, build wealth and build success, you need financing to do that. And so with that lack of participation in the economy, it's just grown and grown to be, you know, being held back from that full participation. And so it really started with a dream, and, you know, the Cascade power plant was one of the first ones, and Suncor pipeline, the Northern Courier pipeline system, and really gave an opportunity. But instead of coming with a one-off solution, this is a great project, we want to have it built, and we want the First Nations and Métis groups to be partners, they said, let's do this again. Let's make this a replicable model. Let's form an organization. And so we were built around an opportunity and an idea and some inspiration. And that was just coming up to 5 years ago. We will have been in operations 5 years next month, and it's a very exciting time.
Well, happy anniversary. That's a great story, and it's just getting going. I think it's $680 million.
720 something. I can't remember exactly right now, but we're north of 720. Yeah, I know, because we're closing deals so quickly that I can't keep up sometimes. But we just announced a deal, an expansion of an existing deal that added a little over $40 million to our loan portfolio, and so we're pushing up against that $1 billion mark now.
That's awesome. You'll be there soon. What's AIOC's greatest strength? I'm sure there's many strengths, but you have a superpower in the organization?
Well, I think our people, we have this amazing team that's come together, and what we really have is a cross-functional team. So we have capital markets professionals, we have Indigenous relations engagement professionals. I'm a bit of an oddity in that I'm a First Nations finance person. There's not lots of us out there, but I had the great honor and privilege to spend the first 30 years of my career in banking and consulting, all in finance. And so I really saw this as an opportunity to marry my First Nations heritage and my finance career, and a great team of underneath that of infrastructure. And so all of those people come together driven by our purpose of helping to enable Indigenous peoples to fully participate in our economy. And at the same time, I think we're really driving success for the broader economy as a whole. And so Alberta and Western Canada and the nation of Canada is really benefiting from the economic activity we're unlocking.
Clearly a lot of opportunities. You're demonstrating that. Why isn't the market able to solve this?
Well, spoke a little bit about restrictions in the Indian Act, right? So I think a lot of people wanted to do this or thought about it, but then it's how. The question is how. And so the Alberta government created the how. And even still, I'll say, we get a lot of nervousness. You know, corporations want to partner. They want to bring Indigenous partnerships, but those relationships have been so contentious for so many hundreds of years that now they're nervous. They don't want to make a mistake. They recognize we've all made mistakes. That's what reconciliation is about. But now they want help. And so I feel like our team walks a foot in both worlds. We understand capital markets, publicly traded companies and pressures of shareholders and things like that. We also understand Indigenous ways and the history. And so we can help bring that together in a different way, in a way that, that the values are shared. And help guide both sides about learning how to speak to each other. Can I tell you a funny story?
Please.
I was in the RBC headquarters downtown talking to a bunch of investment professionals, and they said to us, well, we want to build relationships with community, but we don't know how. We don't know where to find the people that we need to build relationships with. And one of the leaders of the insurance company actually said to me, he's like, do I just show up in reserve and ask for the chief? Like, how do I do that? And I started to laugh and I said, they feel the same way about you. They want to understand who you are. And I said, but do they show up downtown on Bay Street and look at the Gold Building and say, I wonder what floor, what button do we hit to who do we talk to here in this giant building downtown Toronto? So sometimes just even helping people find each other and giving them a safe place to have those conversations, and then the magic can happen.
So being a bridge builder is very powerful.
Absolutely.
And as you say, you've got a foot in both worlds. Dozens of First Nations that you work with, dozens, I'm assuming, of corporations that you're also working with. What's critical, let's start with on the corporate side, to them understanding this new approach, even a kind of a new model of capitalism, if I can put it that way?
I think you need to have your eyes firmly rooted in your values. You need leadership from the top. Consistently, what I've seen in our corporate partners or the organizations that have executed successful transactions is leadership commitment to making it happen. And I'll tell you, the corp dev teams and the lawyers, they're used to doing things a certain way, right? We're about time is money and let's get things done, and it does not start from a seek to understand point of view. And Indigenous communities are different. The conversation is different. And so what I really encourage those organizations to do, and I think the successful ones really understand that, is to take that seek to understand approach, talk about how you can do this. It's going to look different than any transaction you've done before, and that's a good, healthy thing. And so I really think that our corporations are better for these Indigenous partnerships, but it takes real leadership from the very top and commitment to following it through, because it's a new way of doing business.
So we'll get to the Indigenous side, but let's stay with the corporate challenges and that point about leadership and leadership from the top. Maybe provide a bit more color on that. What does that look like in a successful organization?
Well, you need to understand your why. Why are you doing this? It's one of the things that the leaders will ask you too. First Nations Métis leaders will come to you and they'll say, like, why? Why us? Why do you want to do this? Why is this important to you? you know, let's be clear, we've been sold a bill of goods before, right? We've had people come promise us the world, and guess what? It hasn't materialized. That's been happening since time immemorial, right? Maybe not quite time immemorial, but, you know, since settlers landed here. So why is this different? And then I want to turn it around and put you in their spot. So if someone knocked on your door, your front door, first of all, if you're like me, I don't like answering the door. I don't like people dropping in on me. Second, have I got a deal for you? You are going to make money. I've got the best deal ever. You are like, no thanks, right? Right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Like you just, if someone's got the best deal you've ever heard of, you immediately are suspicious and you're like, no, thank you. You know, I'll get my cell phone somewhere else. I'll get my car somewhere else.
Yeah.
I will get my whatever deal on the infrastructure deal somewhere else. So I often say, like, you can't show up with your PowerPoint deck and you're slick, you know, this is how it's going to be. This is I want to understand you. We've been your neighbor. We want to be more than a neighbor. You know, help us understand what that might look like.
It takes time as well, and that
It
often
does.
doesn't compute with a corporate mindset. How have the successful ones adjusted their notions and approach to time?
Yeah. Patience. I think patience, perseverance, creativity, those are three key elements to these kinds of transactions. Creativity, it's not just to deal with the First Nations partners. There are certain parameters of a loan guarantee that make it challenging. You know, we are responsible at the AIOC for $3 billion of the Alberta government balance sheet. That's a big responsibility. And if you're a taxpayer in this province, you don't want me to be like, oops, sorry, we made a bad call on something, right? You know, and we talk about these deals are not easy to do. The bar is high. We have some creative credit structuring and those kinds of things to protect the loan guarantee. Because if the province has a $150 million loan guarantee called, we've got less money for roads, schools, housing, and healthcare, and we all know the challenges there, right? So our credit underwriting needs to be prudent, and we need all three parties to collaborate about what works for the communities, what works for the corporate partner, and what will work for the loan guarantee.
Let's switch to the Indigenous side, to communities and nations. What are some of the challenges, but also the signs of success in the communities that have moved forward with these opportunities in terms of their view of corporations and the structures that you're helping to create?
Well, I think we're on a journey, right? I would say some believe, some have seen the benefits. If I can tell you two stories, I want to tell you one story because I really think this is a magical story and it was a corporate partner that told me this, and it was a leader of a health and safety for Wolf Midstream, came up and talked to me at First Nations Major Projects Coalition. And he said, you know, Chana, I wanna tell you about what's happened since we did that transaction with you last summer. And I was like, oh, okay. Sure, shoot. You never know what this is gonna bring, by the way. This could be anything under the sun. And so he said, it's been so amazing. We used to have such trouble with this one Métis settlement getting access to the land. Every time we would write a letter, it's, you know, once or twice a year, we need to check our pipe. We'd write a letter, they wouldn't answer. We'd call, they wouldn't call us back. Then they would say, they would reschedule us 3 times. No, you can't come, you know, whatever, and any excuse to come. And then he said, now, and I know this chairman is so funny, now he said, I called this year, and Stan said, just come. And he's like, just come? He's like, yeah, you're welcome on the land anytime. And he said, what? He said, but you always had me write a letter and I had to do all these steps. And then he said, yeah, but now we're partners. And you have treated us with respect and in full partnership. And now we're in this together. And so you are welcome on our land anytime. And what does that do to your productivity? What does that do for your employee engagement? What does that do for people, how they're feeling about their job when they had to fight just to do the basics of their job and it took 3 weeks or a month or what have you just to get access and then you're followed around like a criminal? How does that change your perspective when you feel good about going to work? So I think that's really powerful. And then on the nation side, we have a video on our website. It's really short. If you can watch it, you would warm my heart. Whitefish, Goodfish Lake First Nation, they've now been involved in 3 deals. They've bought land. they built an arena, or they're building an arena. And 30 years ago, their arena built down. And so they haven't had a healthy center of their community. And we might think of an arena as a building, but for them, it's a place to gather. It's a place for their youth to be healthy. And when you think about the opioid crisis and the disproportionate effect on Indigenous communities, a healthy center is immeasurably valuable. And then also, all of the things that go along with that, the contracting, the construction, it's jobs, it's income. There's jobs, running the arena and concession jobs, and all of that drives economic activity and builds them a healthy heart to their community. They will host tournaments. They will have people from neighboring communities. It doesn't mean, and those are both Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, by the way. It doesn't mean just a healthy center for them. It affects everyone around them. And so I think what's amazing is that the Alberta government is really seeing that this is unlocking economic activity in regions of our province that haven't had it before. And again, multiply that over. 43 nations and settlements have participated in our transaction so far. Multiply that story over 43 times and call it economic activity. Call it Elizabeth Métis settlement. They bought a van to bring their elders to medical appointments and to community. That gives their youth a connection to the elders, and we all know what that healthy connection will mean. And so these are invaluable to the fabric of the lives in those communities, and I think the positive economic impacts, we're just starting to see them grow.
The very notion of what you're doing and other loan guarantee programs are doing can be a challenge in some communities. It's leverage, it's debt, and communities, understandably, will have different opinions within the community about not just the nature of debt, but how much debt.
And how much do they trust the government to,
yes.
to have their back in that debt?
How do you walk communities through that, or how do you walk with communities through those interesting but challenging questions?
Well, I think with anything, you're always best to have the tough conversations early and upfront, right? So I will be there to have those conversations myself. I don't send someone else to have it, right? Our team has them. Sometimes they need to hear that from me. Sometimes they need to hear from the minister, right? I think you just have to have the conversations, and then people have to see you walk the walk. And you do the best you can with what you've got, right? And we're starting from a few steps back and a few steps behind. And it's not an easy journey, I'm not gonna lie. And I am personally so passionate about it. And the team that I've built is so passionate about it that we're just, we're just charging up the mountain every step. And sometimes it's 3 steps back for 1 forward, but we're just gonna keep going. And the view's getting better every day.
The view's getting better every day. What a great expression. One of the things I've seen in successful examples is the view from both the corporate side and the community side that this isn't just about money. You are investing, but you've got human capital, you've got cultural capital also on the table, and those are very powerful when they're managed correctly. But some say, yeah, this is just about money, dollars in exchange for.
Tougher. I'm not gonna lie, yeah. Those deals are tougher. You need to have your values. You need to understand what these transactions bring to you. And when it's all about money, I don't care who it is sitting on the other side of the table, they can feel it. They know. And if it's all about money, it'll be all about money on the other side, and you'll see what you get, right? And when the going gets tough, it's when you're in the trenches of those negotiations, if you haven't spent the time to understand and build trust up front, Indigenous partner or not, when you're in the thick of it and there's a problem, that's when you're really gonna feel it. And do you have a partner that wants to work with you at that point? Or do you have a partner that's, over to you? It all depends what you do on the front end.
Yeah, so interesting to hear you describe it that way. I won't name names, but I'm thinking of a CEO of a major infrastructure company who has spent a lot of time over many years in communities, and I've seen him in conversations where he asks about so-and-so in such and such a community, how are they doing, did they resolve this? And I think, there's a guy who's done his not only done his homework, but he's invested serious time almost becoming a member of the community. That's an overstatement, but has seen
taking the time to understand.
Yeah. and then you can feel from everyone
Yeah.
else in the conversation,
Yeah.
a reciprocity.
Absolutely. And in any negotiations, in any relationship, in any business partnership, there are difficult times that you're going to need to get through. And if you've got a good relationship built on trust, you'll find a way through it.
It was amazing to think that you're just coming up to your 5th anniversary because you've got such an impressive track record already. And moreover, a number of other provinces are modeling what you've built. The federal government has modeled in many ways what it's rolled out. What advice do you give them when they come to you saying, what should we think about when we're creating a loan guarantee?
Depends on the question, and everyone's got a different perspective, right? It's so interesting to me. I'll brag a little bit about the Alberta government, if that's okay. I am so impressed with their entrepreneurial spirit and their passion for this work. They really come to us and say, what do you need to make this happen? And Alberta has not actually been held up as the paragon of forward thinking in these kinds of matters over our histories, right? I won't, give us the label that people put on us, but really, I think that's amazing. And what I've seen from other governments is, conservatism, the loan guarantee, they've been burnt. I really like our governance model. I think is super important. So we talk about structure and how you go through this. It's really important that our board approves all our loan guarantees. So we recommend, but our board approves. Our board is 5 First Nations, 2 Métis, and 2 allies. I think that's a really important mix of folks that really understand Indigenous business and really understand capital markets. You need the right skills at the table. You need the right people on the team, and you need the right skills at that boardroom table to really protect the provincial loan guarantee and also to understand the community's interests and the nation's interests. And so to be able to understand that intersection. And we've given both programs a lot of advice along the way, and we will continue to. We want to work in partnership with those programs. I know you talk a lot about Canada's productivity crisis. Well, it doesn't make any sense for us all to have a different program that they can't work together. So we want to look at big infrastructure projects that are multi-jurisdictional and that the different programs can work together. So we've been a bit of an open book. Come, share with us, learn from our journey. We will help you. We're really here to help Indigenous peoples and Canadians really understand and unlock the benefit from these partnerships.
So governance being critical, that's a great point. And then that from your shareholder, if I can call them that, kind of entrepreneurial
Like that support,
backing,
yeah.
is really important. Let's talk a bit about sectoral preferences because that's a big question in any loan guarantee program. How do you think about which sectors to focus on and which ones maybe not to focus on?
It's a really topical question, even here in Alberta right now. And so it's interesting. We have some back and forth with the government about all of a sudden there's the view that, wait a second, we're really unlocking opportunity. And how can we deploy this? How can we look at the new opportunities that the province has? Where do we want to grow? And how do we start with the end in mind? And so these are questions we're grappling with right now. For us, it's, the credit quality needs to be there. The Indigenous interest in investment in that sector needs to be there. And then we need to there needs to be cash flow because, this started out as an Indigenous reconciliation journey, and it's become also now that and an economic development opportunity. But that means that real returns have still got to flow to the communities right now because they're woefully underfunded. And so we can't wait 30 years for those nations to be self-sufficient and for them to be able to fund their needs. We need to do this now.
So the model seems to work best with, resources, infrastructure, things that do have that cash flow that become almost
large,
like
stable cash flow streams.
Large,
really
stable
help.
cash flow, yeah. It's almost like a utility
Yes.
model.
Yes.
How do you get beyond the utility model into other areas that may not have the predictability of a utility, but
Right.
are just as important in terms of all the other considerations?
Well, I think we're looking at different ways to do that. I think the federal government's done some extensive work on that. I mean, there's the infrastructure bank model. There's different ways to look at these things. We're really looking at how do we collaborate with the business leaders in those industries. So we're having regular conversations to say, what can we do together? What could this look like in your industry? And it didn't happen overnight in the resource industry either. And so what I think it really takes is some smart minds that are willing to take some time, invest, and come to the table with some creative solutions. We'll come with our experience and our side. The nations come with their side. And we kind of have to come around the table and put some creative minds together and come up with a solution. We're still working on it, frankly, like, let's be clear. We don't have all the answers.
If you can look out another 5 years to your 10th anniversary, what areas would you like to expand in?
Oh, wow. I'd like to be in all the big ones, right? Like, I'd like to, and it's hard to think about, I think about the big opportunities that this province is looking at, and there's AI data center and power needs. And I think about, the government has got like a tourism agenda that's a big, there's other big economic opportunities. And so they think about, well, how can we bring Indigenous partnerships in there? And so we're just in the early stages of thinking about that. But what I'd like to see, and I think we're rapidly getting there, is that Indigenous participation is a given. We start with that end in mind. And we walk this journey together, and I really think we'll unlock big projects that way. We just have to figure it out.
The government sees Indigenous opportunities, but equity as kind of a starting point, not something you bring in later as you expand these sectors.
And then they ask our team, well, okay, so how are you going to do that? I'm like, I actually don't know right now, but but we're going to figure it out, right? Like we're in the gray. We have to figure it out, and it's an exciting puzzle to unlock. And now we've got other programs across the country that we can all work together on, right? But when there's that priority, we will figure it out.
Tell us a bit about capacity, which, as you know, great variance through communities. How are you helping communities that don't necessarily have experience in capital markets, may not have the financial expertise within the community? How are you helping them move at pace with some of these opportunities?
There's a lot to learn in a short period of time. So we do, through our capacity grant funding, provide advisors, funding for advisors. Our corporate partners also usually help fund that stream. It's been amazing. One counselor from a Métis settlement up western Alberta, they went through one of our transactions, and she was at every single meeting. All the due diligence, all of the legal due diligence, all of the financial due diligence, the site tours. And first of all, she said, wow, this is a big time commitment. It's a lot to understand and take in and learn. And she said, I learned so much. And now, but just that one experience, so the journey, the advice, our advice, walking the journey together through that transaction. And now, when industry comes to talk about consultation, she stops them and says, why are you here to talk about consultation? Why are you not here offering us equity, share, partnership? Because we can do that. And so the entire conversation has changed. They are not subservient to industry anymore. And I am so proud of that.
What a great message. We've got just a couple of minutes left. All of this is wonderful, but insufficient, particularly in terms of reconciliation. That could be a full conversation and more on its own. But what, in addition, when you're looking at these situations, at these opportunities, do all of us, but especially those involved, the companies and governments, also need to consider to support, augment what you're creating?
Well, we're just one part of the equation, and I often say we're not all things to all people. We have the loan guarantee sliver. That's a very high credit bar to meet, right? And that does not replace procurement and contracting and relationships and hiring. But what I do talk about, a CEO said to me, Chana, I know we haven't been good neighbors. We've been operating next to these nations for years, and we have not been great neighbors, but we're trying to be better. But we can't get anyone to come to our job fairs. And I said, just change the narrative. I want you to think about this differently. Instead of starting with recruiting and trying to diversify your workforce, what if you started with economic partnership and now they're a partner in that business? And then how does your recruiting funnel look? then how does your relationships look, right? So it's an entirely different way of coming at it, and the business will be better. But we need to think differently, and then we need to act. I think a lot of people are thinking, how can we do this? That's really interesting. I'm really excited about that. I'm really proud of, this company or that company or this CEO. Move to action. How can I bring this to life for my company? For us, reach out to our teams. Sorry about that. Reach out to our teams. We will help you. So just, take the first step, ask the questions, talk to your Indigenous neighbors, say, I want to do more business with you. How can we do that? Start the conversation, and you will move along that journey, just like we're climbing up the mountain.
If we're fortunate enough to be here in a year, what's one or two things you hope will have advanced or changed?
Well, I hope we've done deals. I hope we've broadened our scope of deals. I hope we've done one or two really big game-changing deals that are cross-jurisdiction. And I hope the other programs are up and running, and we're just talking about the next big thing that we're going to do. Just so exciting.
Those are great ambitions. Congratulations to your team on all you've been building, and also on what you've set out as challenges ahead. And thank you for the conversation.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks you all for joining us.